How's it going, guys? Welcome to the Talk4 Podcast. So excited to have you here today and show you this fantastic episode. Just want to say quickly that episodes like this one and all the ones before and the ones in future are made possible by people who subscribe. Hopefully, just like you. I'm going to ask you today if you can leave a subscribe, leave a follow, leave a rating, leave a like or a comment, and just support the show in the little ways that you can like that. It makes a huge difference on my end. And quickly, just want to plug as well. I've taken 30 of the best episodes of this podcast and turned them into a fantastic book that goes into 150 secrets to greatness. Each one of those 30 episodes gets crunched down into 5 of the best key takeaways from the whole talk and turns them into a fantastic book. Highly recommend you check it out. Please support the show by grabbing a copy, either a paperback or an ebook. And I can't wait to show you guys this one today. So guys, without further ado, let's get over to the episode. How's it going, guys? And welcome to episode 175 of Talk4, the quickfire podcast where we ask 4 great questions to unique and interesting people. Behind the mic today is your host, Louis Skupien. That's me. And let me introduce our incredible guest for today, Josh Gould, who's going to be answering our questions today. So, Josh, welcome to the show, man. It's a pleasure to have you here. How's everything going? That's the most important question. What have you been up to?
Everything is going great. I have been very busy. I just got off a plane from your neck of the woods. I was in Leeds and London.
Nice.
And even though I look great and I'm fresh and I'm full of energy, I'm actually also very jet lagged.
Oh no. How long ago was that then? I mean, how bad is it right now? I mean, I'm going over to the US soon in a few days as well. So I know the grind. I know it's horrible. But how are you feeling over there?
I'm great. It depends where you're going. So I'm based out of Miami. So Heathrow to Miami International is a long flight. It's, 9, 10 hours on the plane. If you go into New York, you can do that in like 7 or 8 hours one way, 6 hours the other way. And then you got your 5 hours of jet lag or that you've got to catch up with. But unfortunately, and you look very young compared to me, it gets worse as you get older. And I travel 100 days a year at least. And, so much so that when I sit on my sofa to watch the football, I look for the seatbelt and then I realize, oh, I'm not on the plane.
Oh, that's brilliant. I love it. Right. Well, it's pretty obvious you do a lot of traveling. Time to figure out exactly what all that traveling's for, because you're a busy guy doing big work, and I can't wait to introduce this work to the people listening in today. And by the way, to the people listening in, thanks for joining us. This is going to be a great episode, so you're in the right place today. So, Josh, what we usually do on the show is a little bit of a kind of elevated pitch, we like to call it. So, you just met someone, you've got a minute, 2 minutes or so, just to kind of really quickly introduce who you are, what you do, what the day job is, and a little bit of the intro to the life of the crazy, which is what you're going on with right now. Give us a snapshot of what's going on over there, and then we'll dig into it on the big form right after that. So there's the timer. Let's go.
So I am Josh Gould, CEO of The Big Word. The Big Word is a language tech company and service business. And what we do, and in fact, it's better to explain it like this, Louis. It's probably a really bad day if you are with one of my linguists or interacting with my company, because you're in a hospital, you're in a prison, you're in a jail, you're in a theater of war, or you're in a court system. And we provide language access. Our mission is to eradicate the final barrier of communication, which of course is language. And we do that every single day for public sector and government organizations and some private companies that provide that particular sector as well. When I'm not working and I'm not running it, and we have 15,000 linguists that work for us, it works a bit like Uber. We also have AI services in there as well. So it's very busy. When I'm not running it, you can find me on the water, under the water, on top of the water, but that's why I live in Miami. Salt water is a magnet for myself.
Oh man, I love it. Right, so this is super unique. I mean, really, really a unique thing. And one of the most fascinating things to me is people doing big stuff, running businesses, how they got into what they're doing. That's really where I think some of the foundational building blocks truly are, and it really makes a difference to people who are listening in right now, for example, who maybe are thinking about pulling the trigger on starting a business, or they've got an idea, they don't know how to execute on it. And it's stories like these that we need to hear that help us get to that stage where we can pull the trigger on it. So you've built the big word into a global technology driven company operating across more than 250 languages in 80 countries. Can you take us back to the beginning, Josh? What first got you into the business and technology? How did your early experiences shape the way you approach leadership and scaling companies today? So basically just send us right back to the beginning and how did this all come about? Like I said, super unique. So got to know how you got into it.
So probably like a lot of your listeners, I was at school and hated it. I know that there are people that love school and, good for them. They probably peaked in life at 18. But for the most of us, it wasn't our best part of our life. And I didn't want to be the kid that didn't get into uni. And if you're in America, that would be college. So I actually did get in. I got into Leeds Met, which probably ages me because it's no longer called that. And I went there for a full 2 weeks, sat in a lecture theatre and thought, oh my God, I cannot sit here for the next 4 years of my life listening to someone talk about business who's never actually run or worked in a business other than the business of education. So I called my parents and said, I'm leaving. And surprisingly, they were very supportive of that. But what
Nice.
they did say is, we're not paying any rent, we're cutting the money off and you have to go and get a job. So I went and got a job the next day, and it was just the first job that anyone offered me. It was for Coors. If you're in the US, Coors, they make beer,
Okay.
but they also distribute a lot of drinks like Red Bull back in those days. I don't know if they still do. And they taught me to sell. And this is my advice to anyone who's looking to start a business. Start with selling, because lots of average businesses do really well when they're well sold. Lots of average products do well when they're really well sold. So if you can create a great business and a great product and sell it really well, you'll be on fire. So I went and I learned to sell. My job was to sell beer to open houses. So that's pubs that don't have a brewery, that own or it kind of works like a franchise. And, I figured out quite quickly that working from their call center wasn't a great way of selling. So I used to go on my own time, sit in the pubs, order a drink, and just speak to the person behind the bar, which in the UK is nearly always a family member of the owner or the owner themselves. So you go there, and I wouldn't sell to them. I would just strike up a conversation midday and make friends with them and start to influence them. And then they would ask me what I do, and I would say I work for Cause, and it would be very organic. And I actually wouldn't really sell to them. I would just build the relationship with them. And then towards the end, I'd say, have you got any open taps or, any opportunities? I'm not supposed to do it from here. I just came in to get a pint. And then I called them for the call center the next day. And there's hundreds of people in that call center. And I was either the top or second top best-selling person within 9 months. And then I went and I worked in some big box stores. I got experience as a buyer, which buyers are still sellers. You're trying to sell the reason why someone should sell to you at a lower price than everyone else. And that was a great foundational experience. No college necessary, no debt necessary, no coursework necessary, and you don't even have to take an exam. And the great thing is you can cheat. In the real world, you have real books or real internet or now real ChatGPT, and you don't have to be an expert in everything.
Yeah.
So that suited me really well. And at some point, I wanted to move to London, and my parents owned a flat or an apartment, as we would call it, in London. And I said, I'm going to look for a job there. My dad said, well, you can come and run my call center if you want for me whilst you live there, and you can live there for free until you find a job. So that was the deal. And that's how, Louis, I entered the big word. I never wanted to work with him. I don't think he wanted to work with me, But that call center started kicking ass pretty quickly because I was very driven, partly because I didn't want to be the failure. I was driven by fear more than anything else. College dropout. Um, I didn't want to be
Mhm.
a business dropout as well. I mean, what are you otherwise?
Yeah, so true.
And
Yeah, there's a few things I really want to dig into there with some of those early points as well, especially the whole school thing as well, because I had a very similar experience. So I left school when I was, I believe, 12 years old to go and do tennis professionally, and I did it. I went homeschooled and actually never got a GCSE, never did A levels, never went to uni, never went to college, nothing. And exactly got the same relation in terms of the whole business thing too, where everything I've learned in business has been done by running a business and going into business. And I'm sat, in the studio right now above the gym, and it's my gym, and learning how to do that has just been done on the fly as well. So yeah, I just really wanted to ask you, just in terms of young people nowadays, from that experience, because I'm quite curious. I just feel like the world's kind of opening up a little bit more now, and opportunities are really out there. There's a lot you can learn with AI. You can chat GPT anything, get answers super quick. Building a website's easier than it ever has been before. Getting data, getting knowledge, hiring a tutor, whatever you want to do, it's got really easy now. For a young person who's maybe got big aspirations, how would you kind of weigh up sort of either going down the traditional route of school and university education and stuff, or maybe going, splitting off slightly and doing their own thing? Like, how do you weigh that up and make that decision? How do you know if it's right for you? I don't know, just any points there from your experience where you would kind of guide a young person into that route, or maybe not, depending on their situation?
yeah, I mean, for the most part, people shouldn't be going to university. Let's face it, if I have a heart attack now, I want my surgeon, my cardiac surgeon, to have gone to university, to have gone to college.
Yeah.
I want my attorney to have gone to university or college, or my accountant. But if you're not going to be in an academic-based business, you are wasting your money and you're wasting your time. And I know people don't like to say that on the record because there's backlash, and all the people that have done it don't necessarily agree. And I understand the whole argument of you learn more than just academics at university. But guess what? You get that same experience plus a lot more in business.
Yeah.
And I will say this with AI, and when we say AI, we're talking about generative large language model AI. It really is more pointless than ever. And university and even school needs a radical shift from where it is today. All of a sudden, knowledge is a commodity. For $20 a month, I have far greater legal knowledge at my fingertips than my attorney and my cardiologist have in their head. What I don't have, Louis, is the ability to apply that knowledge. And that's what we need to teach in schools and universities. And I would change my mind if they started training on that. My daughter is sitting a test today as we speak, and she has to be able to say what DNA stands for. I'm sorry, but who gives a rat's you know what on what DNA stands for? It's not going to make any difference. And she does want to become a doctor, but she still doesn't need to know that. You need to teach differently now. And I think people like you and I, we've always known that. You have to teach by doing. You have to teach the application of knowledge. So that's my advice. If you are sitting and you're a 16-year-old, probably do your GCSEs. School has the ability to teach you how to learn. But after that, unless you want to go into an academic field,
Yeah.
then go and learn by doing. And the big word has huge numbers of apprentices coming in. I'm a big, big believer in that, along with the British government and our own business. You'll earn a bit of a salary, nothing to write home about, but it's better than debt. You don't get paid to go to university, and you will finish your apprenticeship with the ability to apply knowledge in a way that no one coming out of university or college will be able to do.
Yeah, completely agreed with that. Yeah, it's one of those ones, I know a lot of people right now in university, some people doing open university, and one of the common factors I'm hearing from them is they're saying that, there's all these anti AI checkers and all of their essays and everything and stuff. And, in school, like it's obviously from the leadership down, it's all, pretty hated upon right now. But I mean, the more I think about it, like one of the biggest issues with school, in my opinion, is the fact that it's completely non-individualized to the person. Like every kid has their talent set, their passions and things that they're meant to do in this world, but they're going into a system that is just one massive funnel that puts people through all the same stuff. And I don't see why AI couldn't be used to help individualize the approach to each student in school, modernize it a bit and you kind of lean into it a little bit more, because that's where it's all going. So yeah, a few points there. And then on the side of that as well, what you were saying about, just going and doing, in business, so important, especially for young people to get that experience, I think. And yeah, I mean, do you think because you've obviously done like a whole lot of work, and what you're doing now, with the government and everything too, you're constantly in sales. Whatever you do, it's in sales. Do you feel like you were a natural at that, or do you feel like you were kind of chiseled into it through those early jobs? I don't know, does it come naturally for most people, do you think, or is it something that can be learned and you can be great at it no matter who you are, or do you always need a sales team at the end of the day?
I think it's innate to be bad at selling. Why? Because when you're selling, there's a possibility of being rejected. Now, there are some people that don't have the fear of rejection as much as others. So, but I can tell you, I work with and I invest in other businesses outside the big word. And I invest in the people because it turns out, Louis, that I'm terrible at investing in businesses. When I try and pick an idea and invest in it, it typically doesn't work out and I lose my money. So I started investing in people, and actually I get great results doing it that way. One of the things I'm looking at is, can they sell? So again, it's about application, going out, selling. At first, I was incredibly nervous, but I did it anyway. And I got rejected. And then I would have these nights of rejection, with my friends. You go out as a, 17, 18-year-old, which you can do very easily in the UK, which is where I grew up. And we would say, all right, let's see how many times we can get rejected. And we would always get lucky more than anyone else. And then I realized I can apply that to business. And people used to say, it's not a numbers game, it's quality over quantity. And you're supposed to say that on a podcast, but the reality is we all know it's not true. Otherwise, we wouldn't use mass emailing. We wouldn't be on a podcast like this that's going out to a huge number of people that we've no idea who they are. Well, you probably know they are, but I don't. And, so you've got to get used to rejection. You've got to get comfortable with failure. And that's why I tongue in cheek, say that there are people that just peak at 17 or 18 in school and it's all downhill because they cry when they don't get an A and they're just not used to failing. I don't know if you're watching Formula One at the moment, but there's a guy called Adrian Newey, and he's just always been incredibly successful through his whole career. And he's gone to a new team right now, and that team isn't doing well. And I wish him the best, but I do hear he's in hospital. And you can see that there are some people that they're brilliant. They're amazing. They're great brains, but they're not used to failure. So for most people aren't as great as Adrian Newey, we should get comfortable with that very, very early on. We should get comfortable with being uncomfortable. And when I used to be the sales manager at the Big Word, because I worked my way up from call center to CEO, I actually used to do a training where I get people to come with me to the town center and preach. And they could preach anything they want. It didn't have to be Bible. It could be whatever they want to preach about. And the whole idea was to get them comfortable with being uncomfortable. And
Yeah.
people used to come up to them and dispute and argue or agree. And everyone dreaded the preaching day in my training course. But at the end of it, nearly everyone loved it. And, people still tell me 20 years on that it changed their life that one day.
Yeah, I can imagine. So important. And yeah, it's the same thing kind of what I've been doing as well. I mean, I've been doing these video projects for quite a while, making documentaries, doing different forms of flying in fighter jets and helicopters and with the military. And the dream was always to get into some of the best jets in the world. And the amount of times I got told no was just incredible. But I guess it's interesting though, isn't it? Because some people just aren't cut out for it. Like you do have to be a tough cookie to go out there and know that you're going to get rejected, or 9 out of 10 times and 99% of the time you'll get rejected. Some I don't feel like some people can hack that, but you have to find a way to do it because that's just life, isn't it? But yeah, it's one of those
Yeah.
ones. I mean, how would you start? Like if you're someone right now, let's kind of put a good example to it then. If you're a person right now who they want to ask a girl out, or they want to start a business, or they want to go and get an opportunity or get a great job, or they know a CEO or a boss of a business and they want to pitch them and try and get like a little bit of work experience. I don't know, anything. How would you get that practice? Like, would you do what you did? Just go out, talk to people, strike up conversation, try and sell something? I don't know. Like, what would be kind of a first step for someone that's just not naturally confident like that?
So confidence and mental toughness is a muscle. It's something that, I don't have big muscles naturally anyway. And, even not naturally, sadly. But I do go to the gym and I do lift weights and I can make my muscle as big as it can be naturally. And that's what you got to do. You've got to see confidence and toughness as a muscle. If you don't go to the gym, you cannot expect that muscle to get stronger and to grow. So my advice quite simply is you just got to do it. You've got to start and you'll be shocked. You will get rejected majority of the times, but you won't get rejected every single time. So if you want to go on, get a girlfriend, you've got to go and ask girls on a date. I know it's shocking, but you got to go and ask them. And you will get rejected maybe 9 out of 10 times, but you ask 10 people in one day, you're going to get a date every single day. You ask 100 people, you get 10 dates. Maybe you're going to get rejected 49 out of 50 times. 2% of the time you're going to be successful. So you got to do it. Same in business. If you're going to raise money, I raise money today and I invest in healthcare outside of the big word. We have a company that's run by a guy called Simon Broch, and he runs all Woodley Capital, and they buy up small or single doctor offices, and they're doing a roll up. He goes every single day to a doctor's offices, pitches why they should be part of it, and gets rejected the vast majority of the time. But he only has to get 1 or 2 yeses a year for it to be a great business. And that's the truth of the whole matter. So you've got to go out there and it doesn't feel bad being rejected once you start having some success.
It's true.
You've also got to understand that everyone is looking for something different and they're not going to tell you what they're looking for. Often they don't know it themselves. Now, how can you get rejected less is probably a good question to follow on with that. And that is you got to learn to ask questions. When you're selling, never, whether it's a date or whether it's a business and you want an investor, you've got to ask questions because you've got to find out what makes people tick. What are you looking for? Ask lots of open questions. Don't waste lots of time on small talk. Small talk's important because it breaks the ice and it gets people more comfortable with you. But just practice it. If you're on a plane tomorrow, start doing it with the person next to you. Find out who they are, what they do, and get to know them a little bit. Don't just go in and sell straight away. Build a relationship with them first and then sell something to them. I used to do something, this probably makes me sound a bit psycho. I used to see if I could pretend to be someone else at a hotel bar every now and again, just to hone in my skills. And it's funny, I used to like sit at a hotel bar and I'd pick something because I would be bored. I used to travel 200 days a year. Now I travel 100 days a year. I used to practice being a dentist or whatever. I know nothing about dentistry.
I was
And
going to
then
say,
it
what
was,
are you, an astronaut or a fighter pilot, or what are you going with?
I would just pick something, whatever came to my, I don't know why I remember this dentist once. I sat there, I pretended to be a dentist. I was in a bar in Washington, D.C. He goes, "Oh, I'm a dentist too. What do you specialize in?" And he believed everything I said, or at least played along with it, because I used a technique of mirroring what he said. And that is a great sales tactic. So selling is absolutely imperative. If you want to be a CEO of a large company, you have to be able to sell. And I tell everyone in the big word, we have about 500 to 600 people in our offices, about 15,000 people on the as contractors working for us every single year. I was telling you, all salespeople all the time, whether you're in the reception and you're the receptionist, or whether you are in the accounts department and you're trying to convince someone to pay us on time for once, you are a salesperson. You have to sell yourself internally as well. We don't ever give in the big word an annual increase to anyone, without it being for a good reason. Every single person in the big word has a file that tells them what they have to do to get promoted, what training they have to undertake, what KPIs they have to meet. And we pay based on outcomes, not just because we went around the sun an additional time. And that's really important. You got to be able to sell yourself. And every month there's an appraisal meeting. And if you can't sell yourself and you can't demonstrate it, you will stay, regardless of what's happening on inflation, you will stay on the same salary. And that way we reward success and we reward people who can sell themselves versus people who can't.
Yeah, I like it. It's a really good model. So I've heard a lot about the big word and we brushed on it, but it's time to dig into it good and proper then. So you've helped transform what many people see as a traditional translation and interpreting business into a technology first, AI enabled platform serving governments, enterprises, and NGOs worldwide. All right. So what is this thing? How does it work? What was just tell me all about it. I want to hear everything, how it's going, how you got there, and any of the things we just spoke about as well, how maybe some of those lessons in sales tied into that as well. So I'm going to let you take the reins on this one and give us the backstory of the business.
So the big word is a 44-year-old company, and it really, when I came in, was an agency. So it worked like a short-term staffing company. You would need a translation, and we would find a translator, and we would send it out to them via email, and we'd get it back. I quickly realized that this was just a commodity. We're a middle person. It wasn't going to be long until you eradicated the need for that middle person. So we built APIs to integrate into the back end of content management systems, document management systems, and we started selling to banks. And why banks? Because banks create a lot of content for their traders to trade on. And the speed in which that content could be sent around the world and analyzed was an edge. And I'm talking about in the early 2000s. So we built this great business. I moved to New York at 21 years old to go and sell to all these banks. And our office was on Wall Street. And what happened was, around 2007, there was a major banking collapse and we had the Great Recession. All my clients literally walked out in with these boxes. And George Bush was the president of the United States at the time, and he came up with his multi-billion dollars. It turned out to be a multi-trillion dollar package to stimulate the economy. And at the same time, you had wars raging on in Iraq, as you know, and Afghanistan. So, like any good salesperson, I followed the money and I pivoted the big word to be a government contractor, as we would say in the US, or public sector contractor in Europe. But these contracts were huge and we were not. We were like a $10 million business. and we were going after $5 million a year contracts for 5 years. $25 million contract given to a $10 million business, it didn't really work for people. So I realized we had to build a orchestration tool, a really cool technology that could automate as well as possible all the manual repetitive processes. So we did that, and it worked out great. We pivoted very nicely. We sold to the Department of Education here in the US. We won contracts in the UK with the Department of Work and Pensions, which is US Social Security, and so on. But I was the head of the US. I was the CEO of the Big Word, and I really wanted to have something of my own. I wanted to have done something from scratch. I had that itch, and I think you know what that itch feels like. I, I felt that I transformed the Big Word, but I would only ever get external credit if I started something up from scratch because my last name was the same as the owner. It was my
Right.
father. So I thought, okay, I understand how to move humans around and logistically get everything working. Where can I do this? Well, like I said, I followed the money. Afghanistan, Iraq, Syria, you need these huge contingent workforces. I don't know if people know this, but 1 in 5 people who were in the US or NATO efforts there were actually a contractor rather than a uniformed personnel like yourself was. So I went out and decided that I was going to create a contingent workforce service essentially for militaries. And it's exactly what we did. We set it up. We went from zero to $20 million in 3 years. We won contracts and opened up offices and trading units in all of these far-flung places, some of which we can talk about, some of which we
Mhm.
definitely cannot talk about. Um, and it was thrilling and it was exciting, and things would happen and it would be reported to me, and then 3 days later you would watch about it in the news, and you felt like you were doing something really important. But around in 2017, my father started to want to retire. And the Big Word had grown really, really well. My dad was a incredible entrepreneur. He didn't really care about making money. He cared about building an empire. And that's a lot of entrepreneurs are like that. So he had just at all cost built this company, but he didn't really make any profit. Meanwhile, TBW Global, which was the name of the defense company, was making a lot of profit because I had built it to make money. And, he had said a lot of the stuff that you were doing in TBW Global needs to be done in the Big Word. Will you come and join forces and merge the company? Now, the Big Word had actually backed me to start up the company and owned a lot of the company. So we did a merge of the two businesses and I took over as CEO. And not long after, you had COVID. Now, bear in mind, we were moving humans around in person to the healthcare sector, to the all government sectors. And when COVID came, 47% of our revenue died overnight, but I still had $200,000 of cost every single day in the business.
Wow, that's a lot. That's crazy, isn't
Well,
it? It's a lot of
yeah,
money.
so and I had put every penny back into the business too, even though I wanted it to make profit first, and then I would reinvest it. So I had a nice house in New Jersey at this time. I'd moved out of New York, but I couldn't afford even to like furnish this house. It was like used furniture in my beautiful home with a swimming pool. It was insane time. And I was really worried that I had this company that was nearly 40 years old at the time that my dad had spent all this time building, and would it even survive? So we bought all of our developers in and we would run these huge hackathons to try and digitalize our business fully. And we started providing really good on-demand video, face-to-face interpreting. We already had telephone or over the phone interpretation, And it really works like a miracle. I mean, these are huge call centers that don't exist in the physical world. They're just people at home, like I am now. I'm not at home, but I'm in a studio. And, on demand in under 60 seconds, 98% of the time, we can get you any language on video, like we could do now on this Zoom call. We actually have a Zoom integration. And not only that is the algorithms will know, does this person need to be top secret cleared? Do they need to be anti-terrorism cleared? Do they just need to be SC cleared, which is a basic security clearance? And it would provide that person. And we digitalized the whole business and we went from potential disaster to really good profits. In
Wow.
fact, almost embarrassingly high profits. And we're a public sector provider, so we've always had this mission to only make profits that are socially responsible. So we started dropping the price and we started winning more because we were giving more back to the taxpayer, more back to the clients, and we started investing more in technology. And in 2021, we released WordSync, which is our platform. And this deploys full AI self-driving workflows. Before you knew about ChatGPT or Claude, that's what it did. And it used machine learning. And then we introduced, a whole suite of AI translation, human in the loop, and built this platform in 2021. And the business has done exceptionally well since then. And we started moving away from selling interpretation and translation. Interpretation is just spoken, translation being written word,
Yeah.
to selling the actual outcomes. You're a doctor in a national health service. You don't understand what they're saying. They don't understand what you're saying. You don't just need an interpreter, but you need someone quick. You need someone qualified. And you sometimes don't need them for a whole hour, and you're going to have to pay a minimum of an hour. Then you're going to have to pay travel costs. So we're going to, we're going to give you a dolly with an iPad on. You're going to be able to get a human. You're going to be able to get AI to do triage questions, and that's really what we sold, the whole experience, the whole outcome, and that transformed the big word.
Jeez, it's really really interesting, isn't it? You've done such a great job of it, and it's one of those interesting ones where people say, or they did say, or they're still saying, AI is coming for all of us, right? Like it's coming for the jobs, it's going to take these jobs away, and I hear that all the time. But I think your business is like one of those prime examples of one that could have been swept away by AI, but you pivoted and sort of reinvented it like you did, and now it's right in the mix of it. And like you said, I guess, I mean, and you spoke a lot about following the money. Well, the money went to AI and generative, and well, here you are. So I guess you obviously saw that one coming quite a way away as well, right?
Yeah, I don't. Yes, I did, but let me let me give your listenership some comfort. The people who say that AI is going to replace all people and we're going to need some kind of government subsistence for everyone, they are the people that own the AI engines that need to raise money through their stock. Elon Musk's a great example. Go and have a look at how much money those companies make. They all lose billions. In fact, they're losing tens of billions of dollars. Now, if you work with Claude, you'll see that's probably the most responsible one. And you pay $20 a month for it, $25, I can't remember. It cuts you off after like five different inputs. And that's because it can't make money from you on your $20 from there, which is completely useless to a software developer. And then you have to pay for this tokenization of the whole system. And it's a pay as you go. Uber just announced that in the first 3 months of the year or 4 months of the year, they spent their entire AI budget. It was out of control. So the good news is, and this is going to absolutely shock your listenership, AI right now, and believe me, I've invested tens of millions of my own money into it. AI is more expensive than humans. Just let that sink in for a second. AI, and I replace humans with AI. It's more expensive than humans, and it's not going to get cheaper. And why is it not going to get cheaper? Because it needs ginormous amounts of electricity. It needs huge server space. And in the UK, for example, there is no server space. And we can't build server space quick enough. It needs chips. In fact, the VP of, I can't remember which VP it is, but they work for NVIDIA, said that the amount of money they spend on AI code dwarfs what it would cost with humans, but it's the speed that they go for. So AI has a huge place in this world. I'm very bullish on AI, but it's not to replace humans, Louis. It's to actually supercharge them. Think of it as a fighter jet. You could take a Cessna, which is a small single engine plane, to war and lob a few bullets out of the window. You're not going to do very much. Or you could surround yourself with an entire, you know, F-25, chassis with huge bombs on. That's what AI does for you. But either way, we're still sending manned jets into war. There's lots of drones. Drones is very important, but we can't still replace the fighter jets, and that's going to be the same in business.
Yeah, it's true. I've had a few conversations about exactly that, and it's interesting how the people who don't really understand it think that we're going to replace humans in jets and it's all going to be AI. The best people I know who are actually in leadership in the development of the space are all saying we are making AI drones. They are going to assist humans in the sky. We will have people up there, and they'll have AI drones and AI fighter jets and stuff being controlled and supporting humans. And that's the best people in the industry talking about that as well. And I think it's like you said, it's probably going to be the same in most other industries as well, where ultimately we're just our passion and our uniqueness kind of shines through, right? Like it just can't be replaced like that too. And I agree. I mean, the human interaction is also going to be so important. And yeah, I think maybe another thing as well is like in your business, just in terms of interpretation, I don't know a whole lot about that industry at all, what it's really like, because I've never had an interpreter, but I can imagine that the way you interpret things is also very much at a human emotion level, which AI wouldn't ever be truly able to get to at this stage, at least, as well, right? So,
Yeah.
yeah, talk to me about that.
I have a friend who had a relationship with ChatGPT. Literally, they would say that they were emotionally dependent on ChatGPT. And I used to say, well, how do you have a relationship with an entity that relationship, A, is fake? It is pretending to be real. And B, it can't get better than it is on day one. Like it can never develop. And at first, he said, I can't answer the questions. I don't care, but I get what I need out of it. And within a few months, he came back to me and he said, you were right. Like, it didn't ever get better. It was great when I was really down and out in my life.
Mm,
And it gave me great advice, but it couldn't get better. And my advice was he needs to get, a lot of human interaction and get genuine emotional care. And it's the same in selling. It's the same in business. I use AI to write sales emails in my business, to go out to um, search for the exact profile, but at some point I've got to go and meet them.
yeah,
So AI is really wonderful. It analyzes every call that we have in the business, and I run big call centers in our company. It knows who is doing well, who is not doing well, who lost their cool with someone on a call, who didn't, and
yeah,
it holds them accountable. It tells me exactly who to pay more every single year and who not to. But I then have to look at all that data and apply human intelligence, which far outstrips it. I have to understand what's going on. I have to then do that. So it's supercharging what we can do. It's very, very important within the big word. We're an AI native company, meaning AI is actually part of our product that we sell on the front line, but it's also, you know, automating things on the back end. Our cost of operations, so meaning what percentage of our revenue do we spend on operations? before we deployed AI in 2017 for the first time was about 25%. It's around 9% now. And that's only because part of our business is still very heavy. But for the majority of our business, it's actually around 5% of our revenue. And that's all AI self-driving workflows. But I don't have less people in my business than I used to necessarily. I've just been able to grow quicker without hiring people. As a ratio, it's around 25% less people. But that, if you look at the market, it's grown more than 25% in that time. So those people haven't been without a job. So the big advice and the takeaway for your listeners here is learn how to use AI. I don't mean ChatGPT AI. Learn how to actually build reports with it, build agents with it, automate with it,
Yeah.
and deploy that. But don't get lazy and go and sit on the beach here in Miami because someone's doing your work for you, because you're up against a competitor who's still going to work 12 hours a day and use AI, and that's going to give them like an equivalent of a 40-hour workday,
Yeah,
and they're going to
absolutely.
beat you.
So true. Throwback to your backstory there as well, actually, with what you were saying about how, you, even if it, was for a purpose, even though it didn't seem like it, showing up and getting your face in those pubs and those establishments and building rapport like that in a natural way as well. AI will never replace that as well. That's another thing. So being authentic, and in a world now where people are going to absolutely abuse AI, and automate things and mass them out there. I think that it's something kind of traditional, like what you did in your early days in sales, just getting out there, being a face to the name, striking up conversations, going and having real interactions and engagements and getting to know people and just having those talks. And I guess, for lack of a better word, definitely networking. Maybe the value of that is going to go through the roof exponentially, because people are going to get so used to the mass AI, because you can smell it, can't you? You can smell an AI email a mile away, or an AI report a mile away. When people see, feel, hear something different, authentic, maybe it's going to push things back the other way to more traditional marketing. What do you think?
I think it's all about having an edge. So when everyone is using AI, what's your edge? Your edge is HI. If we're all using the same 5 engines, whether it be Anthropic's engines or, with Claude and ChatGPT is OpenAI, or, whichever your favorite engine is, it's about having an edge. What actually happens though is AI blows up the demand. So as much as it kind of automates cost base away, and cost base is sometimes humans, the demand outstrips the automation. I give you a really good example for your own business, Louis. There's these things, everyone calls them fat jabs now, but there's probably a better name for them. Is it GDPGL?
Manjaro, I think is the name of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, there is literally the kind of is like the pill people were talking about years ago, but
Yeah,
I hate it. Yeah.
it's the magic drug, according to nearly everyone here local to me in Miami. And if you were just a theoretical investor, the last thing you would want to do right now is buy a gym, because most people don't go to the gym to get really healthy. I think they tell themselves that. They go to look good. Now, if you can take a magic pill and all of a sudden lose, 30 pounds, or if you're in the UK, like 2.5 stone, you're probably in theory not going to the gym. However, what happens, and I used to be 30 pounds heavier than I am today, nothing to do with fat jabs, just to do with starvation, probably, Louis. But what happens when you start to look and feel good, you're like, maybe I should put on a bit of muscle. And I go to the gym. And I never went to the gym. And I would imagine that those jabs are actually driving demand for gyms, because people are starting to look good. But all it does is make you skinny. It doesn't give you good shape. So now I want to go to the gym. And it's also not so hard to run 2 or 3 miles, or to go on a rowing machine. And then I go to the gym just to put on a little bit of muscle. And I start seeing all these other people in the gym, and I make friends in the gym. And
Yeah.
now it becomes a community.
Yeah.
And So all these things are, people say are going to destroy businesses. Typically, that's when I run to invest in them because the businesses have devalued and easier to invest in. And on the other hand, the demand is going through the roof. Not always, but often. And I think you're going to see the same with AI in all aspects for that. And AI is going to be used, like, for example, when I go to the gym and I do a pull-up, I want to see which muscles are being used
Mm,
and how to do it. I actually go on AI in the gym sometimes just to find that out.
yeah, so true. I mean, it's so funny you should actually mention all of this because literally someone came through the doors of Synergy yesterday and said, "Hey, I really need to get into the gym. I've been on the fat loss injections and I've just plateaued. I can't lose any more weight right now. I hate it. I'd like to look better. My skin's getting loose and stuff. I need to get to the gym." So it's so true what you said there. And also, what I'm kind of thinking with the gym as well is, most certainly the most important thing in this gym right now is number one, the community, and number two, it's a friendly face on the desk. Just having great staff members and people who are there, interacting with people, making people laugh, and building that community feel and that niceness to it. But not to say we're not going to use AI. Like I'm trying to develop an app for the gym, where it puts kind of like a little bit of a coach or an induction helper in everyone's pocket, right? So yeah, exactly what you said. I think it's never going to be, or I mean, maybe it will, but right now, at least for the foreseeable, I don't think it's going to be the be all and end all, and it's not going to
Yeah.
absolutely do a
Gym
tsunami
is a
through jobs.
community
Yeah,
place. Gym is
yeah,
a community place. What you typically find is the businesses that do disappear, the pubs, for
mm,
example, are disappearing in the UK. And these are the small bars here in the US, is they're disappearing because people want to be more healthy.
yeah,
Does that mean it's a bad time to buy a pub? No. It's probably a wonderful time to buy a pub, but you now have to reimagine the pub. You have to make that a place where there's non-alcoholic drinks that people can, they still want the community. They still want a place to go and meet their neighbors.
yeah,
And they've now got to compete with the likes of the gyms. So you've got to sell healthy food. You've got to sell cheap food that's also healthy. And you've got to sell non-alcoholic drinks. And you've got to do things that stimulate community. The pubs have always historically done well.
yeah,
So again, it's about your understanding of a situation, your adoption, and we always have to evolve. You know, about 200 years ago, all your food came from fields that were turned over by horses. Literally, there was someone's job to stand on a piece of wood with big nails in it on the back that would be dragged by a horse. And then the combine harvester came along. Do you think we have less farmers today than we did 200 years ago? Of course not. We have many, many times more farmers. Why? Because it became easier and cheaper to make food. And then humans said, okay, I can get food easily. I've got good food security. It's cheap. I'll have more babies. So now we have more mouths to feed. If you go back 200 years ago, I don't know what the world's population was, but I reckon it was around 1 billion people. So we've had 800% growth. That all came from the fact that food became cheaper and more accessible.
wow, so true. You're right. We've got to keep the pubs in because where else would a young Josh have to go and play pretend dentist at, if not one of the British pubs, though,
Yeah,
eh?
exactly,
I know
exactly.
the essentials, right? Okay, so I mean, we've gone through a lot of stuff there, a lot of great tips, obviously from the young days to everything you're doing now. What's the hot tip like nowadays? I mean, we've obviously gone through quite a few of them and everything, but we've heard a few of your essentials for people listening in today from what you did before. Get into sales, right? Go and do the thing. There's a lot there to unpack, but nowadays doing what you're doing now, your skill set has evolved. You've gone from working for cause to now you're a CEO. You're in a leadership position doing big work. You've reinvented a company, you're doing acquisitions, you're investing. What are your best tips from your experience now? So we've had your best tips from before. What's it looking like now? What would you tell people to do and go and apply right now?
So someone told me yesterday, I met them for a coffee and they said, I can come up with a business now within like 90 minutes. And they gave me an example where They went on Claude and they got ideas for businesses. Then they got Claude to actually build the application. And then they built a go-to-market strategy. And they claimed that they had this business done in 90 minutes, which, to what I said is, but okay, can't everyone else do that? And they thought about it and they said, yes. I said, so, that's not a great investable business. What I said next really took him by surprise. I said, it's for the first time ever. I do not stay awake at night worrying about the clever genius in their bedroom building a better big word.
Hmm.
And he said, well, you should. Why don't you worry about them? Like, you don't even have to be a coder. I said, because I have one thing that makes my moat stronger than ever today, and that is access to market. I can build Uber overnight. I can literally build the exact technology that Uber has overnight, but I don't have the taxi drivers. I don't have the customer base. I don't have the data to tune all the algorithms, even if I have the algorithms technically coded. Same in the big word. We have 15,000 linguists that want to work for us, that see us as a ready-made business in a box. We have hundreds of thousands of users across healthcare systems, militaries that trust the big word to provide language services. We have access to market. And that is the most valuable thing, because without that, AI and HI, which is human intelligence, is actually just a commodity right now. So you need access to market. How do you get access to market? You learn how to sell. Selling is where it begins and it's where it ends in this podcast. You have to learn how to sell. You have to learn how to build a relationship. You have to learn how to build trust. I could go and rent 20 boxes in the UK, go in your gym, copy everything. It doesn't mean I've got a bigger business than you, Louis. I don't have any customers. I might have all the machinery in there. I don't have the trainers. I don't have the credibility. That's your access to market. So build your access to market. Focus on that. AI is a means to do it, just in the same way as HI is a means to do it. Use them both and use them wisely, but build your access to market through great sales.
Oh man, that's great. That's a mic drop right there. I flipping love that advice. So good. It begs the final question then. What's next for you, man? I mean, you're clearly multifaceted. You've got a lot going on, and it's a skill set that can go, I think, pretty much anywhere, right? Like you said, sales is universal. So is
Yeah.
it always going to be the big word for you, or are you looking to do some other big things in different industries? I mean, what do you think is going to happen for you over the next decade?
Someone asked me that the other day. They said, I'm looking to retire and I don't want to work with another CEO. So can you give me an idea of, where you're at? And I said to them, I don't know what will happen. We have major institutional investors in the big word. But if I grew the big word by just 5%, which I would see as a big failure, but just 5% every single year, how long would it take me to grow it to a $300 million business? And, you know, he did the compound interest and it doesn't take very long. I mean, the business is over $100 million today. So I love the big word. I love the mission. I love what we do. It's something really, really important. And I think that the product that we built in WordSync is phenomenal. It's a orchestration tool of contingent workforce. It's a sourcing tool, and it's just scratching the surface. So that's what's next for me business wise. I also launched a podcast where I do these once a week, 5 to 10 minute max, bite-sized strategy sessions. And it's not all about selling. It's not all about AI, but it's got a lot of both in. And I'm having a lot of fun. I don't have your audience, so I'm pretty much doing it for like my mum and my dad at this point, and my wife and my kids that are forced to watch it.
It all starts somewhere.
Yeah, but I'm still doing it anyway, and I'm praying that one day the algorithms would magically pick me up. So, ExecCraft, if anyone can go on there, comment, like, subscribe, it makes my day, and it actually makes everyone's day. So please make sure if you're unsubscribed on this podcast that you've done it. It's free, it's cheap, and you're actually going to learn from it far more than you will at university.
Hell yeah. I love it. I mean, we kind of tapped into it there a little bit, but I think, now is just a great time to really have that shameless plug, but for everything as well. So beyond the podcast as well, the website, the LinkedIn, I don't know, any books you like, just take a couple of minutes and just push people who are here to wherever you feel like they should go next. I mean, the podcast sounds like a great place to start, but is there anything else that we're missing there that we need to go and do and check out?
No, I'm a bit of a tart on LinkedIn. I'll be friendly with anyone. I am nearing that 30,000. I think I'm over the 30,000 now, actually, but luckily some of those are followers. So please do go on there, hit me up if you really want to discuss anything that you've heard on this podcast. I do this as a hobby. I do it as a love. I'm passionate about it. I share it. So, please go onto LinkedIn, put in the search Josh Gould, the big word,
Yeah.
or Joshua Gould, the big word. You'll find me there. Other than that, I have nothing to plug, Louis. I have a great business that I invested in recently called Falafel Love, and it manufactures frozen falafel balls, and it's available in supermarkets in the US. So if you go and buy one of those, you'll help me pay down my mortgage. Thank you very much.
I feel like I'm going to see you
Uh,
on Shark Tank next week or something. This guy you just keep
yeah.
going. It's amazing, mate.
Well, you know what? It's like I can't, if I just sit at home, I'm going to watch YouTube all day.
Yeah.
So, you have to do things, you have to get out, you have to get busy. Um, I can be found when I'm not working, literally on my boat, usually working. So it's fun. It's for the ride. You can't take this money into your next life with you. And believe me, I talk about my successes. I've had a hell of a lot of losses mixed in there, and it's all part of the adventure.
Yeah. Yeah, it really well and truly is. But I mean, you've done such a great job. It's an incredible backstory, and I really related to a lot that you had to say there. I think it was a hell of an episode, and I'm gonna go and check out more of this podcast as well. I already listened to an episode, but I'm gonna go and have a look at it a little bit more as well, and put some links in the description there. So yeah, thank you for sharing all this, Josh. I mean, it's been undoubtedly a fantastic episode to talk for today. I've really enjoyed having you on, and there's no doubt about it. You are a true powerhouse, and I just can't wait to see what more you go and do. And if you haven't thought about it already, I'm sure you have. But I really want to see a book one day about this too, because I feel like that's got to be coming at some point, right?
Yeah, my dad wrote two books. Neither of them I've read. I've heard the last one is good, and I probably should plug that. But it's The Making of Mr. Irresistible, and it's his life story of how he came from public housing or government housing, as we would call it in the UK, in the US, sorry, and built a big business and sold it for a lot of money. He's done that twice.
That's awesome.
Um, but it has things in about my family that probably I don't want to read about. And he wrote another one called about how your sex life is affected after retiring, which I definitely do not want to read. But I probably will leave all of the book writing to him, and I'll stick with ExecCraft and the podcasts. And maybe AI will write the book from the content I create in time.
I like it. You know what? I think you may have made a good decision staying away from that one. That sounds like trauma that you don't need in your life right now.
Yeah, my wife has read it and she says definitely do not read it. It's very practical.
Oh no. Yeah. If I was one of your friends, I would definitely be reading that, and I'd never let you forget that. But it
Yeah,
sounds like
believe
he's done a
me,
great job.
they've done that.
Oh my God. Well, Josh, just want to say again, thank you so much for joining me today for the Talk4 podcast. Honestly, what a pleasure having you on. And man, I hope we stay in touch. And as you keep going with everything you're doing, I want to get you back on here in the future as well to talk about it, because it sounds like you're going to keep doing big things, and we want to keep sharing big stories. So there's a natural alignment there for sure.
Yeah, let's go flying one time in. I love flying small planes. I am a YouTube pilot. I believe in wholeheartedly I can fly a plane just from watching how to on YouTube. But it comes down
Nice.
to application of knowledge rather than just theory. So I probably best do it with you.
That's true. We will definitely go out one time, man. Hey, thank you again so much, Josh. I hope you have a great rest of your day. And to everyone listening, this was episode 175. If you'd like to listen to the past episodes, go and have a look at the channel. If you'd like to listen in for the future ones as well, make sure to hit that subscribe button and spread some love by leaving a like and a comment. And go and check out Josh's podcast. Link in the description right at the top. You can't miss it. See you guys in the next episode. Good night. See you later. Cheers.